I don't know what it's like round where you live, but something that's increasingly changing the face of our environment is graffiti. Over the past few years, the problem of graffiti has begun to plague Britain's towns and cities. London Underground says it costs them £750,000 a year to clean it up. And sites like these have become common in many public places. And this year, Birmingham police took the initiative by setting up a special buzz squad to catch offenders. 61 people are to be brought to court soon. But what exactly is graffiti? Is there a difference between a crude scribble on a bus and the kind of complicated thing that's being done here? Now, is this vandalism or is it a kind of art? Goldie here says that he's not a vandal. Goldie, other people would say you were.
No, I'm not a vandal. It's, I don't know, you can class this with vandalism. It just seems like completely irrelevant, I think what's happened is that the media is, because they've got this thing from America, they think, well, let's put it in the same category as vandalism, which is completely, different.
Now, first of all, what's this word? Because a lot of the art that you do has words in it. What are you actually saying here?
This is like love, which is...
love?
Yeah, love from the heart, which is the elf dropping a heart into the water and just making a scene, a scene kind of thing.
So you're actually saying you've got a message?
Yeah, I've got a message behind it, A lot of kids, these days who, are tagging up and stuff, it's just kind of... It's got nothing to do with this kind of art form at all.
Tagging is when you just go around and print your name on something in a public place. What sort of materials do you use?
Aerosol cans, that's the only medium that's involved in this kind of art. So, this is where it just works through this medium alone.
Well, let's take a look at some of the artwork that you've done over the last few years. Tell us first of all, whereabouts do you do this?
Well, like this kind of art is like painted in the environment where I live, and it's just like over the years through living in an urban environment, it's just this is the kind of art which we create among the urban areas.
And you paint on trains, you paint in public places, don't you?
Yeah, I paint anywhere where I feel that I want to paint. If I want to create something like this, it's any place will do as far as I'm concerned. For shows and various other things, you paint on canvas and various other things to give the public a kind of eye view of what it's all about. But it doesn't really, where I've been brought up is where I think I have the right to put my mark, so to speak.
But do you have a right? It is, after all, illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal. But it's which way you're looking at it. I mean, it's only through the hierarchy of the society which we have today why an artist can't go out there and paint. 500 years ago, an artist could go out and he could paint murals or scratch on walls, and there was no authority to tell him that he couldn't do that. If I'm being a vandal and going around writing my name and destroying stuff like that, that's fair enough. There's an argument there, but when I create something like this, I don't see anybody's got the right to come to me and say to me that I'm not allowed to do that.
Well, let's just find out exactly if that is the case, because we have with us Superintendent Richard Fowler. Now, if you saw Goldie standing in front of a wall in a public place doing this kind of thing, would you arrest him?
If we were in a public place, yes, I would. I do accept, first of all, that Goldie does have an artistic talent, and as such, he's one of the minority. But it's where they choose to employ that talent. And if you start doing it on public places or on private places where you don't have permission or authority and society does not accept that you should do it there, then it's pure vandalism and it's criminal damage, pure and simple.
But Goldie says it's art.
I can accept that there is some art involved, only with those who are talented, and they're the very small minority. There are a large number of them that they use their terminology, toys, who do their tagging. They do it on buses, they do it on council property, on private property. That is just unsightly, that's defacing places, that's criminal damage.
But if you are going around arresting these lads and presumably lasses, is that going to act as a deterrent? Because it's going on all the time, everywhere.
It is going on all the time, but if we, the police and society, don't do something about it, it will just generate more. There's also an argument saying if we do tackle it, it then makes it more exciting for them to do it.
Well,
but we have to tackle the problem, and our way of tackling it is to accept it is criminal damage, and for that there's a power of arrest, so we exercise the power of arrest and place them before the courts.
Goldie, not art, but criminal damage.
I think that the dumb problem is that you can't seem to see the difference between vandalism and art. It's simple and plain to see that if you're saying that you would arrest me for doing this on private property, I think in making the arrest, you would not analyse the situation. I don't think you would ask the people around the area where it is if they want this in their area.
I don't need to analyse that problem because the public will say to me, or the person who owns that property will say, that person is defacing my property. Do
Let's
something
find
about
out
it.
more about
and-
those
yeah.
people. Let's bring in Jeremy Shields. Now, Jeremy, you're from the council cleaning department. You're the person who responds to all the complaints. Now, the people in your department go out and clean up the walls. Isn't it a bit like cleaning up the Forth Bridge? It just goes on forever.
Yes, but that's not a reason for stopping. That goes for most types of cleaning work, I think you could say. But to pick up Goldie's point, I think the problem here is that most people see this as threatening. That's simply what the public say to us. I take his point, he sees it differently, but most people see it as threatening.
What do you mean by threatening?
People see it, particularly say in pedestrian subways, they feel threatened by graffiti. They feel unsafe using the subway.
By
I'm not saying
tags.
that's your intention,
But not
but
my
that's
work. You don't
not
see
your
my
work, I'm
as
talking
threatening.
about graffiti in general,
Exactly,
but
well-
lots and lots of people do it in subways and the public feel threatened by it and they complain and they don't use the subways.
I'll give you an example. The work that I've done in the past and the work in the area where I live and the people that I've done work for, they've never seen that as threatening. They've just seen it as sprucing up my environment. I think if you ask the people where I live in an urban area, not the high street, you know, I don't go to the high street to paint. You know, fair enough, if the public don't want to see it, that's fair enough. But where I live, in my urban area and whatever, I do this painting and nobody, not even a local cop, will come to me and say, well, you know, this is wrong and this is, you know, criminal damage. You're talking about toys and tagging. I think you've got to, you know, you're not dividing the line between the two.
That's our problem. This is a poor example. To use Goldie as an example of graffiti is poor. I'll accept that's an art form, but not what we normally have on the buses when public say to us and the bus companies say it is threatening. If you travel on a bus and get on the top deck, people don't travel on the top deck of buses any longer because of the damage and because they feel threatened and they know that's where the graffiti merchants are at work.
But why do kids, I mean, you know, you'll arrest a kid for tagging, but you won't look at why he's going out there to do that. What's giving him the incentive to go out there and do that? A lot of kids who I know have that talent to, if they've got the time to. I mean, I'm glad that I was brought up where I was brought up because it gave me that time to you know, bring this to the head. And I think
you travel on a bus, you go on the city streets and look around you. That is not art.
Yeah, fair
That's
enough. It's not
defacing, and we
art.
need to tackle that problem.
And the
So
second
we
point,
mustn't
Goldie,
call it
that
art.
you haven't picked up is that it's imposed on people.
Yeah, it's
People got a
imposed on
choice whether
people.
they go in an art gallery to see something. They haven't got a choice to walk down the streets. They haven't got a choice to use a pedestrian subway.
I'm not saying that's right.
You're imposing your taste on people.
That's fair enough.
I'm
I'm
not
not saying that's
commenting on the
right.
quality of what you've done, but you're not giving people a choice.
That's fair enough.
But
I'm
they'd
not
like
giving
to make
people-
that choice.
I'm talking, you know, toys. Fair enough. You know, you can scrub it off and whatever. But what I'm saying is that
When you say toys, you're just meaning, you're saying the little
Yeah, kids
signatures
who
and
leave
the small
signatures.
drawings that you consider not art as your work
Yeah,
is.
I mean, I don't accept that, and you obviously don't accept that. But what I'm saying is, you trying to cure it and taking the wrong approach. You're saying, well, let's clean
So
this
what
and let's
is the
get a-
cure? Come on, you're saying there's a way of curing it. People like putting marks on walls from when they start very young. When
Yeah.
they start young, they're not going to be as sophisticated as your art. Now, why should I walk down the street and have to put up with what is a visual eyesore for
Because
many people?
it's not, you know, it's the approach, the way that the media has bumped it up in this country, not like New York. The way New York's gone is that, I mean, that's a perfect example. The way that the police handled it and all the other people in graffiti squads was just like in a harassing way and trying to just like, you know, we want to stop this because this is young kids showing us what
Where's
to do.
the harassment? There's harassment then from the youth who are doing this. They're
Obviously,
harassing society, and
you're gonna
society
get-
does not accept it and does not
You're
want
going to
it.
get that. You're going to get that friction. You're going to get it endlessly going on. What I'm saying to you is, take a different approach. You know, you've got to think of it on the street credibility way, and you've got to think streetwise if you're going to try and handle it that way, instead of trying to use books and paper, because that's not going to work with them.
What do you mean? Wait a minute. Whoa. What do you mean, take it on a street credibility way?
You've got to, you know, you've got to look at the cause and sit a kid down and say, well, why are you doing this? And you know, what do you think you can do to curb this? And why, you know, have you approached, you know, different people to try and, you know, do whatever work they want to do? Or
Are you saying that an alternative should be provided?
there should be an alternative, because if not, if there's not an alternative provided, I can guarantee you in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, you're going to be spending like, you know, 3 times what you're spending now.
Well, what
But
about
wait a
one
minute,
thing,
what
Goldie?
about the example that you're setting? Because you're still going out painting on walls. So that's not a very good example to the youngsters coming up, because they see what you're doing and then they want to copy you.
Well, you know, people.
You're not part of the alternative,
well,
are you?
people copied Picasso. People copied, you know, Rembrandt. A lot
But
of
not
people.
on walls, Goldie.
Not on walls, but you know, walls is my medium, and that's got to be accepted. This is my medium. Now, you know, for me to just go
But
into a
why
gallery.
should I accept it if I'm walking down the street and I don't want to look at this kind of design and I just want to look at what the architect put there? Why should I look at your art?
Do you like it?
Well, actually, as it happens, I do.
Exactly.
But that's
Well,
not the,
I
that's
like,
not
I like
the point.
Goldie's art,
That's
but I
not
don't
the
like
point.
what I see on the buses.
So if you're
I
going
don't
down
like
the
to see
street,
the tagging.
if you're going down the street and you see this in the street, are you going to say, well, Mr. Graffiti Squad, will you come and clean this up?
If I see that and it's on a building which is very run down and derelict, that often brightens it up. But that is perhaps, it's still someone's property.
So it's
And
only accepted for rundown buildings?
No,
But that's
no.
exactly what I want to move on to,
It's
because at the
accepted-
moment it's
it is,
on
it is art
buildings.
if it's done in the right place and it is done with approval and with permission.
But
Now, that's
the right
the important
place,
thing.
What do you call the right place?
Wait, hold on a minute. The right place increasingly for you, Goldie, is canvases, isn't it? Because you're actually now beginning to move off the streets and you're becoming, in a way, legit. Now, are we going to see you in 10 years' time marketing your artwork for 100,000 quid around the world?
Well, me personally, through not having council backing and stuff, I'm going into business this year, with a partner, and going into business and using it to its commercial values. But this kind of thing, it's brought up from root base on the streets, and it has to have that kind of emphasis. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's a catch-22 question. But if I would have started in a gallery and developed the art that way, it would never have got to where it is now, because this is what has been learned through me being on the street. And
the final word, can it be stopped?
Certainly with the success we've had so far in the ones we have locked up and placing before the court, there has been a marked drop in the area in which we've been operating it. Whether it's been displaced to other areas or not, I don't know. But we shall certainly continue to lock people up for it, because that's what society says to me they want us to do. And
you can have
that's
a very vicious circle going around.
So be it, but it's a response, and that's the one we're taking at the moment.
Rate pays money.
Pay your money, you take your choice, and you walk down the street, and whatever is there you're going to see. Thanks very much for coming in today. Now let's move along to the next thing.
Everyone who uses the tube knows the graffiti problem is out of control. It's costing a record £2 million a year to remove. At one station there have been 700 attacks in a month. It's thought mainly young children and some organised gangs are to blame. Now London Underground say it's time for drastic action. Special squads nicknamed Graffiti Busters have been called in to remove the menace within hours of an attack being reported. Stations are being repainted to make graffiti easier to remove, and security is being stepped up to catch the culprits.
It causes many people to be frightened of travelling on the Underground. It looks violent, and so it prevents people from making use of the system. And of course it's expensive to remove.
So what exactly are you doing about it?
Well, the station is cleaned and it's painted with an anti-graffiti paint, or it's given a coating of an anti-graffiti material which allows us to come along and wipe off the graffiti when it occurs.
This attack on a tube train at Christmas is one of the worst ever seen in Britain. It's what you'd expect to see in New York, where they're having to spend $10 million trying to tackle the problem. The Underground say they're determined to stop London getting as bad as New York.
I don't do it, innit?
What do you think of people who do?
It's up to them, innit? Bit stupid.
Do you know people who do?
Few people.
And why do they do it?
Don't know. It's hobby or something, innit? I don't know.
Is it just the kicks, just for a laugh?
Probably. I think very high fines is the answer, where they can be caught.
I think they're just a bit mindless. I mean, it's so unnecessary, and they don't think about the consequences to other people and how it looks.
15 stations on the Metropolitan line have been targeted for special treatment so far at a cost of £400,000. It's hoped the rest of the network will now follow. This is Mike Pearce for Thames News.